Hi, everyone, and welcome once again to another episode of Major Reflections, the Berlin 2025 edition. Hope you are enjoying the series, and we welcome a very special guest to this episode. This guest needs a lot of introduction, and she deserves it very much so. I am privileged today to speak with the Australian record holder for the age groups of 67, 68, 69 in the marathon, and for the age group record holder for the ages of 65 through 69 for the half marathon 50K. And just recently, she ran Conrad's, where she broke her age group record of the 70 plus in a matter of time of 9 hours and 29 minutes. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to welcome Jennifer Kellett to the program. Hi, Jennifer. Great to have you here.
Thank you, Scott. It's a privilege to be here, and thank you for inviting me.
Well, you're welcome. I'm so excited to be able to solo you on this episode of Major Reflections for Berlin, because I think you're going to bring a great conversation for us in the fact that Berlin was not typical this year, and you are not typical runner for us. You know, normally we try to stay with the average everyday runner, but you have accomplished a lot of things. And I'm so privileged to have known you through the Personal Best program and to see your journey and to celebrate with you. It has been a wonderful experience. So again, I really look forward to this conversation.
Thank you, Scott.
You're welcome. Well, let's start off with, obviously we kind of know how you got into Berlin, because setting all these records, I'm guessing that you time qualified for the Berlin Major.
Well, surprisingly, Berlin is very difficult to get into, and you can't actually qualify. Once you're over 44, you can't actually qualify with a time.
And what age is that again?
So I think from 18 to 44, you can qualify with a fast time.
Okay.
I think for men from 18 to 44, it's 2:45 around then, and I think it's 3:10 for women. So in that age group, if you've managed to run that time or faster, then you can qualify and get in that way. But other than that, you have to go into a ballot. And of course, there are huge numbers that apply for the ballot. And so it's very difficult to get in. And I didn't. I've run Berlin twice. I ran it the first time in 2019, and I didn't get in the ballot then, and I didn't get in the ballot this year. So I went with a tour group, a local one that's in Australia.
Very interesting. That surprises me that, you know, for us stateside, we have each of the majors here have a good for age group qualifying. Yet it seems that more of the international marathons do not have that. Is that what you're finding?
That's true. And Berlin and Tokyo, I think, and then for Australians, London, they are the three hardest to get in. We just can't just qualify, whereas the other three we can qualify.
Well, now I'm even more excited to talk to you about this, because you had to go through a sports tour. So I want to hear more about your experience with the sports tour, which one you chose and why you chose it, and then also how the experience was.
So I have been with this particular tour group before. It's called Travelling Fit. It's an Australian-based tour group, and their home base is in Sydney. Murray Marr and her husband Mark operate the tour group, and it's a very personalised tour group. They just organise everything, and they make sure it's a really good experience for us. And I personally haven't had a bad experience with them. They've been wonderful.
What do you feel makes it a very good experience? Is it how they take care of you from the flying in to the hotel, all that?
So they're also a travel agent, so they can organise your flights. I tend to do that myself, but they organise everything from the hotel when you arrive. They greet you when you arrive, right up leading up to the actual marathon. You get constant updates about what's happening, and then you have a full itinerary. There's an app that you download, and your itinerary and anything else that you need is on that particular app. They're always very quick to get back to you with any queries that you might have. Once you're there, we usually have things like shakeout run the day before, meet up often that night of arrival, and then often we'll do most of the marathons have a 5K general run the day before, so they organise that for the people who would like to do that. Then we have an evening meal the night before the marathon, if you'd like to join that, and then there's usually something nice to celebrate the night of the marathon, and then Yes. There's often also a tour of the city, and that tour usually involves a drop off to the expo, where you can pick up your bib. And so it's up to you whether you join that or whether you do that on your own. In Berlin, I got there a little bit earlier, and I actually went to the expo on the Thursday rather than the Friday when everyone else went.
I was going to ask you, how soon did you arrive in Berlin to give yourself enough time for the run, for the race? And then also, so you said that you went to the expo at a different time than the tour was provided. So they allow you the flexibility to kind of do your own
Oh,
thing as
yes.
well.
Yep. Yes, you've got that flexibility. So I arrived a little bit earlier. Most of the team arrived on the Thursday. I arrived on the Tuesday. It's a 25-hour, well, travel time, not total flight time, but travel time was just over 25 hours for me from Australia. Stopover in Doha, and I stayed in a non-tourist part of Berlin, which I got to know the first time that I visited Berlin, because I did a similar thing then, went a few days earlier. So I stayed at the zoo end of the Tiergarten, whereas the start, it's a little bit further away from the Brandenburg Gate start. And it's a really nice, comfortable place to be. And you have access to the Tiergarten, really lovely forest area with lots of trails that you can run around in, some lovely cafes that are not touristy, that a lot of people don't even speak English in some of the cafes that I went to.
That's
Which
kind
was
of the
very
places you
nice.
really want to find, isn't it? Because you get
Yeah,
the
it was lovely.
authenticity of Berlin.
Yeah, yeah. But the Tiergarten is beautiful, and I knew I wanted to stay there again when I went back this time. And and on the Thursday, I moved in with the team when they arrived at the Melia Berlin Hotel, which was very close to the river. And yeah, it was very nice then to catch up with everyone. And a lot of people had actually been elsewhere too. They'd sort of come and stop over somewhere else, and then they joined the team on the Thursday
Wonderful,
before the
wonderful.
marathon.
That sounds, so you did have plenty of time before you got there,
Yeah,
and you enjoyed that relaxation. You were able to acclimate fairly well, and you also got your time zones corrected,
yeah,
and plenty of
yeah,
time for the race that way as
yeah.
well. Did you learn that after your first trip to Berlin, or is that something you tend to practice on your
I
always when you
tend to
travel?
practice, I tend to practice that because I know I do suffer a little bit from jet lag, and because I'm a little bit older, I think my body probably takes a little bit of a longer time to accommodate to the different climate. It also allows you a bit of time just to completely relax, because I have quite a busy life at home. So when I'm there, I can't be doing those busy things. I have to actually relax. So it's a good thing for me to do.
Very good. How long was the flight from Australia to Berlin?
So from Sydney, it evolved two stopovers, one from Canberra to Melbourne, and then Melbourne to Doha was 14 hours, and then another 5 to 6 hours from Doha to Berlin. But there
Okay,
was
so
quite
you
a bit of waiting in between. There was a few hours waiting in Berlin and a few hours waiting in Doha.
Okay, so
So
you had quite a ways to go, and
yeah,
were you able in Doha, were you I'm guessing you had to go to a different terminal, so you're able to walk around and not be too cramped up after that 14-hour flight, correct?
no, and there was a very nice lounge that I went to, and you could rest there and have a
Mhm.
shower, and yeah, it was very pleasant. Airport is very, very beautiful airport, and
I know
easy.
that I know that we cannot always be in charge of our flights and what happens there. But is that kind of what you would recommend? Is you like that breaking up of time? Would you do it any differently?
Look, if it could have been, I had about a 5 hour wait in Melbourne, which was I didn't need to have that wait, but
Okay.
I tend to scout around for the best deals that I can get, and sometimes those deals are a little bit cheaper, but then you have to sacrifice a little bit of time and stopovers. So ideally, it would have been nice to have less time overall, but basically you have to do what you have to do, and if you can get things a little bit cheaper, especially when you start doing all the majors, it can be a costly affair, and so you have to be a little bit careful with how you spend your money, and sometimes you just have to sacrifice a little bit of time to get a slightly cheaper flight.
Absolutely. Let's go back to when you joined your tour group at that hotel. So, just to refresh, you found your own place to stay before the tour group
I
actually
did.
started. So they didn't quite meet you at the airport like they normally
No,
would.
no.
You
No,
were already in your hotel. And so then you met up with them at the hotel on the Thursday before the Sunday race.
that's right.
Correct. Now, are they taking care of your meals at that point in time? Do they point you to a specific meals, or how does that work?
So they arranged with the hotel for us to have our breakfast. And even on marathon day, we had breakfast. The marathon was a later start, so that was quite easy. But they do have recommendations for restaurants and things, but otherwise within the hotel, they organise like a pasta night the night before the marathon, and then they usually organise drinks and nibbles and things like that on the evening after of the marathon, so that everyone can sort of get together and have a little bit of celebration or commiseration. There was actually a lot of commiseration going on, but in actual fact, it was a very good bonding experience because
I
most
bet
of
it
us had a
was.
bad time.
Yeah, I bet so. I bet so. And it's always good to have a little suffering in groups. That way everyone can suffer together.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Okay, so after that, did they leading up to the race? Did they organize the transportation, or did they need to even organize transportation to the start and finish lines?
We were lucky in Berlin. We were only about 1.25 kilometres from the start, so we all walked. Some of us started much earlier than others, so they didn't expect the people starting late to walk with us. So, they had people walking us at the various times that we needed to be there. But for example, to get to Boston, to New York, they would have buses. They have buses to actually take you there. So you don't have to rely on any other transport. They're very good at organising everything like that. Yeah, they take care of everything.
Yeah. Just to jump off topic here, and I'm thinking about this. After finishing Berlin, how many stars was that for you?
So I have completed the 7 stars in my 65 to 69 year age group. So now Berlin was my first star in the 70 to 74 age group. So
My
I'm
goodness.
hoping
So,
to
so you're
finish.
so you're hoping to complete your 6 and 7 star journey within the different age groups now.
I am, yes.
Oh,
All going
that is
well,
so much
and
fun.
yeah.
Well, I don't think you're going to do that, but my goodness, that sounds just like that's a great goal. I love that idea to be able to complete it within the age group time frame. You got 5 years, so
Yes, that's
I
right. Yeah,
definitely can do it.
yeah.
That's wonderful. I think that's
Yeah.
absolutely fantastic. It's a great goal.
Yeah, and it's good to have a goal to keep fit and a reason to keep going, in my age category.
It does help, doesn't it, to have that carrot
Yes.
dangling out in front of you.
Yep.
And have you found that to be a challenge as you've gotten wiser, we'll say? Or is it still appealing to you all these years?
Oh, very appealing. Probably more appealing now. When I first started, I must tell you how I did start my first marathon. I joined
Please.
a running group called the Wednesday Westers, which you may have heard me talk about before. And in that group, there are a few ultra runners. One of them in particular, Pam Muston, she runs an event each year called Coast to Kosciuszko, and it's 245 kilometres, roughly, I think. It just boggled my mind that she could run 245 kilometres. And I started thinking, if she can run 245, 42 doesn't sound like anything. So it was actually that made me think, gee, I can surely do 42 kilometres. And so that was right back in 2016. And then I did my first marathon in 2017, which was New York. Yeah,
So you went straight for it. You didn't
I did.
try a small one. You said,
No,
"Well,
no,
let's
no.
go for
I
the
went
if we're
straight.
going to go for it, let's go for the majors and let's do it all."
I did.
Jumped right in,
Yeah,
both feet. What was your
yeah.
time then in New York? Do you remember?
Yes, it was 4:29.
Okay, so
4:29.
let's keep that in context. And how old were you again? 60,
I was 60,
66 when you ran
60.
at
Hang on,
4.
65.
Okay,
So 2015, yeah, 67, 67,
when you ran New York, and your time was again
29.
4:29, and now your latest marathon, you ran it in.
Oh,
What was
hang
your
on.
last marathon?
No, I was 60. That was another age group. I was 60. So I turned 60 and 65, and I ran it in 67. So I was 62. Sorry, 62.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay, 62. And your
Yes.
last marathon you ran in.
Not Berlin was terrible. I ran that
Okay, the
in
marathon. We'll talk about that later. The marathon before that. What was your time?
Chicago last year was 3:23.
3:23,
19.
an hour difference.
Yes. Yeah.
That's just wonderful. That is the power of persistence and the power of you're never too old. I
Yeah,
love
that's
that.
right.
I
Yeah, that's right.
absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Let's go back to Berlin and let's talk about how you found navigating the starting corrals. Tell me your experience about walking from the hotel and getting into the corrals in Berlin.
It was very easy. We walked along the Shea River and went to the Place de Republic, and that's where everyone sort of congregates to enter into the area where you walk towards the Tiergarten, or walk through the Tiergarten, and in the corrals are actually on Victory Parade in front of the Berlin gates. So they have lots of toilets within the Place de Republic area. And then once you get through, you have to show when you actually go to the expo, you get a little tag, a wrist tag, and you must have that wrist tag on the whole time. So you show your wrist tag. They have a look to make sure you don't have anything other than a few gels and things on your body when you go through the gates. So there's a bit of security that you go through. And then lots of toilets, lots of areas you can just sit around and wait before you go into the corral area. And the corrals are just in one big long line. So they have the starters at the front, then the elites, and then it's all in waves A, B, C, D, E, F. And I was in wave D, and wave D were the ones that were expecting to do under 3.5 hours. And then they had paces I think they had paces from 3 hours every 15 minutes. So 3:15, 3:30, 3:45, right up to 5 hours, I think. So, once you got into your corral, you could, if you wanted to run with a pacer, you just try and locate where the pacer is. And on the outside of the corrals, there were also toilets. But I must say, it was a bit of a surprise back in 2019 and also again this year. A lot of the Germans don't have any body shame whatsoever, and a lot of them don't use the toilets, and they'll just drop their pants wherever they are. Doesn't have to be behind a tree either.
A little bit of
So
a culture
just
shock
be a
there.
bit aware of that. It
Just
can be
know
a
that
little
it's
bit
a
of a,
normal thing there, and
yeah,
okay, well,
yeah.
you
It's
learn
just,
something new every day.
yep,
That's part of
yeah,
enjoying the culture of
yes.
the different places that we go when we have the major
The first time I
marathons.
was like, oh, where do I look? Where do I look?
Just look down. just find your feet and look down. Oh, look at my shoes. Oh, shoes untied. How could that happen?
But no,
Well,
it's quite a common sight.
well, that's interesting. Did you find that within the pace? You said they had pacers. Did you find that there were quite a few clumps of people around the pacers, or did people generally spread out?
There were great groups of paces. It's an interesting course. There's 40 turns on the course, and the blue lines are set out, which indicates the tangents for the minimum distance, the actual distance, and so it can be quite difficult to actually get around a group. And I think from what I heard, because I wasn't up that fast, but around the 3:15 paces, they were huge groups, and it was quite difficult to actually get around those groups. The other interesting thing was all there may have been one or two, but almost all the water stations were on the right, and sometimes quite a distance from the tangent lines. And so it was often very difficult and a lot of crisscrossing over. People would be crossing in front of you and then crossing back again when they went to the aid stations. And the other interesting
You
thing
bring
about,
me, yeah, you bring me to my next question. That was my next question is how you found the aid stations and water stations and how they were in navigating. So quite a bit of crisscrossing, quite a bit of
it was, yeah.
dodging
And
people.
yeah, and quite away from the blue line too, quite often. So the aid stations weren't as long as they are in many of the other major marathons like Boston and New York, Chicago, London. And they use plastic cups, and they are not very flexible, and they're very hard to pinch. So you have to, just take gulps of water. But because it was a very hot day, a lot of people were taking the cups just to pour water all over their heads and their
Mhm.
body. And it was a bit of a battle station, especially for me, because I was a bit smaller than a lot of the other runners. And there would be some big guys that would just, go right over the top of me and grab great handfuls of cups and pour it all over themselves. So it's very messy. In fact, at one point, it sounded like hailstones, all the dropping of these plastic cups and then people stepping on them to flatten them. And then because of the extra water people were pouring all over themselves, it was actually quite dangerous and very slippery. So you did have to be very careful to tippy-toe and try and get around big patches of plastic cups. I found that really difficult and, just had to be very careful. And I did end up with a few bruises actually on my arms from people, shoving me.
Oh my
And
goodness.
it was that wasn't a particularly good experience, that part.
Well, I'll say so. Would this so I gather your game plan is to not carry your own water with you. You generally
I
rely on the aid stations, correct?
Well, I do carry, and I did this time as well, about 300 mils of water. I like to do that just to try and avoid the first couple of aid stations. But the big thing this year with the Berlin Marathon was that it was so hot. People were scrambling for the aid stations, not just for water to drink, but to pour all over themselves because they were so hot.
Right. Right.
So it was really quite a different experience, the aid stations this year. Yeah. The other thing I found was they had Morton hydration fluid, electrolyte fluid, and I couldn't tell the difference between the water and the electrolyte. So, and there didn't seem to be much of a difference in the taste either. So
Was there enough of a difference in taste that you felt like you
I
were
could
getting that?
just tell when you're going to pick something up. I couldn't tell. And because it was very noisy, you couldn't really speak to the people who were, delivering the cups. Yeah, I found that quite difficult too. So I wasn't quite sure whether I was getting enough electrolyte fluid. I mean, I did definitely taste it a few times, but towards the end, everything just tasted the same. And yeah, I was just so hot. I just couldn't wait to get to the finish line.
Well, I can imagine because what was the temperature that day?
It was about 27 degrees, but the humidity was over 70. It was quite high. The days leading up to the marathon, they were putting out warnings, don't expect a PB. It's going to be hot. Make sure you hydrate well. And I made a very, very foolish mistake the day before the marathon on the Saturday afternoon. I thought the top that I was going to wear was a bit thick. It was the team top, traveling fit top. And it's normally quite cool when I always look up the long range forecast. And about 6 weeks before, they were predicting between 8 and 11 or 12, maybe up to 15. And so I wasn't really expecting for it to be hot, even though I knew that they were having a hot summer. And so I didn't take a singlet. So on Saturday afternoon, I thought, I think I'm going to go and find a store and see if I can get a singlet. So I looked up Lululemon and it was about an 18-minute walk away. And that was fine getting there. But then getting home, there were all these environmentalists doing demonstrations and police everywhere. So traffic was stopped. I lost my way. My GPS wasn't working because my Telstra roaming wasn't working. And I was wondering, I wandered around for about 2 hours in the hot sun trying to get back to the hotel because
Oh my
of all
gosh,
the
the one thing that
diversions
you
from the
do not
protesters.
want to do,
I
you
know,
don't
and
want
that
to do before the day, before marathon.
and I think that probably contributed to the fact that I did not feel good when I started. So that was a really, really foolish thing to do. I mean, if I'd be able to get straight there and straight back, it wouldn't have been too bad. But I had no idea that these demonstrations were happening and all the police cars were out and traffic was stopped everywhere. That was,
So
that was bad luck.
what would your advice be to someone, because you had no idea the demonstrations were going to happen. You were doing you were doing a smart thing. You were getting a better top for you to wear. In hindsight, you get the top and you see all this going on. What would you have done differently in that scenario?
I don't know. It was a really hot afternoon. Yeah, I'm not sure. I was really worried because I didn't have the GPS, and there weren't a lot of restaurants in that particular area. I found a hotel and only went in and begged them if I could use their Wi-Fi, and just bought a drink. And then I actually had to screenshot how I could get home, hoping that there weren't demonstrations blocking anywhere, and there were. And then I couldn't find another place that I could use the Wi-Fi. So I really was panicking a little bit. So it was not really, that was a very bad experience the day before and possibly did contribute to the fact that I, hadn't rested like I should have been just resting all that afternoon. And It was really hot. I had a cruise booked and I only just made it on that cruise. I didn't enjoy it because I was still, over the shock, trying to get over the shock of what had just happened. And
Right.
and the cruise boat was hot as well. And because I was one of the last on, I couldn't get underneath. I was in the heat. It was a really foolish thing in hindsight, but I just didn't know that was going to happen. So my advice would be just, go for all weather, take something that will suit hot weather, something that will suit colder weather, and don't have to go shopping the day
There's the
before.
lesson right there. Yeah, there's the
Yeah,
lessons. Be
yeah,
prepared for any type of season, especially,
exactly.
when you're going to a possibility of a warm climate. It doesn't take that much to pack those clothes into your suitcase.
No,
They don't take that
no,
much room at all. So,
no. The next day, the maximum was 13, and then I think
mhm.
the day that I left, the following day, it was 8. So it was just bad luck, just
Yeah,
it's one of those things out of your control. The weather is just one of those things out of your control.
it is the one
And
thing that we cannot control, and we
yeah,
just have to adapt to it, no matter what the race is, no matter what the
exactly.
situation.
Yeah.
I agree.
When I ran it in 2019, it was cold. I think it was 12 degrees max, and rained, and my shoes were soaking wet. And back in those days, they had the time chip on your shoe, and I was so cold at the end, I could barely get down to take that time chip off, because if you didn't give it back, you had to pay a fine. And
Right.
and
You were
so
about
I had
ready to pay the fine, weren't you?
but now they do have the chip on the bib, so you don't have to worry about that anymore.
Normally, if you had everything go correctly, what would be your pre-race routine for hydration? Do you have a set before I'm going to race? This is what I'm taking with me.
Yes. Oh, yes, yes. So I usually, the couple of days before, I actually drink a lot of electrolyte in the form of coconut water. So I just find that coconut water is nice and natural and has everything in there for me. But then in my 300 little tube, I just have plain water, and usually just then rely on the electrolytes that are available at the table. But I'll often have water in the beginning and then start taking the electrolytes a little bit further along. But this year I did find it difficult to work out what was what, and I think that the electrolytes didn't appear anyway for the first few aid stations. And as I said, I was aware twice that I was having it, but to look at, it just looked like water, and I couldn't really tell. But normally I would be relying, and also I'd be getting used to the electrolyte that was available. So, for example, in Tokyo, they have one called Pocari Sweat, and I actually ordered some online in Australia and got used to drinking that. So I usually try and find out what is going to be available on race day, and then try and get used to drinking that. It's too hard otherwise to carry the water with you. And if you're wanting a good time, it's not really a good idea to have a backpack on. It's just extra weight that you're carrying.
Yep,
If you're back of the packer and you're not worried about that, then that's fine. But if you are worrying, wanting a good time, then any extra weight will make a difference. So you really do want to rely on what's available on race day.
absolutely makes sense. Do you also rely on, you spoke about taking the Morton drink as well. Do you often rely on the electrolyte drinks that the different majors provide, different races provide?
I do, and that's what I mean. I usually try and find out what they are, and then and get used to drinking that at home when I'm out running, doing my long runs. I actually found the Pocari Sweat quite nice. A lot of people don't like the flavour of that, but I actually got quite used to it and found it very easy on my tummy. As far as gels, I always take my own gels, and and I knew that Morton was one of the sponsors, obviously, this year, and I knew that they would be available at the expo, but I didn't rely on that. I did take my own, and I'm very, very glad that I did, because the queue to get those gels, and I went on the Thursday afternoon. I went early, but the queue was massive, and I thought, no, I just can't stand around in that queue waiting for them to get some
Yeah.
gels. So I was really pleased that I packed my own gels and
I think
could
that's a
rely.
good lesson, is to be able to
Yeah,
bring your own, and
yeah,
that
yeah.
way
Don't rely. Yeah.
yeah,
And also think they do run out. Things can run out. So you could be unlucky and get there late for some reason, and then find that they don't have what you want, and then it can be difficult to find a store then to purchase what you need. So definitely take that sort of thing with you that you used to.
that's very good advice. Let's go back to the course real quick. You had mentioned that the aid stations were not in the best position in the best places. They are often off of the tangents. Other than that, how did you find the course navigation? Was it difficult to navigate the course with so many people? Was it easy? Were you able to find a good flow when you were running the course?
In the beginning, it was, I found it very crowded. To be absolutely honest, from the very beginning, I did not feel good.
Mhm.
And I think my first kilometer was just under 5 minutes per K, which is what I usually aim for anyway for my first K, but I couldn't have gone any faster because of the crowd at the time. But then I did get a few spots where I could run quite easily and there weren't too many people around me. But I just had no speed. I just could not pick up any speed that I would normally pick up. I think the fastest pace I ever saw was 4:50. It was just the heat of the day and the humidity, and I think the fact that I'd tired myself out the day before didn't help. But most of the time I kept an eye on the blue line. I tried to stay as close to that blue line as I could, but I did find it quite annoying that the aid stations were quite away from that blue line. And then I'd have to go right off tangent and get there, the same as everyone else. And most of the time they were on the right. So if you found yourself running very far to the left, it was quite difficult to. And sometimes the tangent would take you very far to the left, and then you'd do a sharp turn, and then suddenly, right over on the right-hand side would be an aid station. So, there was as I said before, there was a lot of crisscrossing going on that could be dangerous. And I'm being a bit smaller, found that I got bumped around quite a bit by some of the big blokes.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. Doesn't sound too appealing right then and there, but you would think the German engineering, they would figure out how to put those aid stations a little bit closer to the tangents. But then again, they
Yeah,
have quite a few runners that are going through that they have to be able to service and take care of.
yes, yeah,
It makes it a difficult chore, especially in
yeah,
older cities like Berlin.
yeah.
Okay, so you made it through the course and you get to the finish. First of all, go ahead and give me your finish time.
I finished in 3:54. I can't remember the seconds, but 3:54.
Well, suffice to say, it was a little further off than what you're normally used to
It
finishing.
it was, and in actual fact, it was only about 2.5 minutes faster than I had done it in 2019, so I found that
Hmm.
personally very disappointing. But, by the time I got even one-third through the race, my goal was just to finish. People were moaning and groaning around me. People were passing out. Towards the end, there were a lot of people on stretchers being carted away. Over 6,000 runners did not finish, which is quite a high number.
That's a high number.
So I really changed my goal. But I still thought I might be able to make it into the 340s, but so I did get disappointed. Towards the end, I was just straggling through the aid stations, trying not to slip, and just watching my feet. And at that point, I knew, my time was right out the windows. My big goal then was just to finish. I really wanted to grind it out and finish. So, and I was never so pleased to finish a marathon. I don't think ever. Yeah, and
Well, I
it was
totally
interesting.
understand that.
It's interesting because a lot of people were saying that their heart rate was going sky high. But yeah, I don't know why, but my average heart rate was only 145. And when I finished, I wasn't breathing hard. I didn't feel exhausted the way I thought I might feel. I was just mentally glad to get over that line and have the whole thing behind me. It was, and as I said, Strava thought it was a training run. So at the back of my mind now, I'm hoping it was a training run for New York in a few weeks' time. So it'll be interesting to see. And I will be prepared. I will be taking a singlet, even though they say it's going to be about 15 degrees max, but I'll have everything
Smart
ready.
still.
And I will not be going out the afternoon before.
We'll have no need to. Well, that'll be taken care of. That I think that's a wonderful lesson for anyone who's from beginners to advanced runners, especially in our group and others that are watching this, to see someone as seasoned as you are and as advanced in your running as you are, to understand when it's time to make a switch and to change your goal. And that can be in mid race, and there's a reason why. And Some of those things are totally out of your control. You have given so many examples of things that were out of your control. No one told you there was going to be a protest that would hold you up for 2 hours in the hot sun. No one told you that it was going to be that warm after, cool days and prediction of that. And yet you had to adjust and adapt to that, and your goals adapted to it. Instead of it being a race that you thought you might be able to have a good time in, it became a finish time, and to get that accomplished, and you did. And you were not one of the 6,000 that did not finish. You did finish. And I think that shows that we must be flexible in our goals, even during the race, up to race time and during the race. So I thank you for that wonderful example of how that can help others in that way. After you're finished, tell me a little bit more about the finish line and trying to get out of there. Was it easy to navigate getting out of the finish area and into back to your hotel? Was that fairly non-eventful, hopefully?
Yeah, no, it was fairly easy. So you just keep getting directed where to go, and you get a bag of goodies. I had to laugh at one of the things in the bag was an apple with imprinted in the apple was, I just ran a marathon and all I got was this apple. And I thought, I think a lot of people might be feeling that was so true. And then if you ordered a poncho, and the poncho is usually useful when it's cold, definitely wasn't useful this year. But then you got directed to where you got your poncho, and then it was very well signed, where to go. And then we ended up back in the Plaster Republic, and then from there I just walked back to the hotel, no problems whatsoever. Oh, of course you get your medal. And there's
Right.
photographers along the way, just as there are in any of the other majors. So it's quite easy. Not a long walk, not like New York. New York is quite a long walk to the finish or to where you meet your friends and go off to your hotel. But no, it was quite easy. Yeah, it was quite good. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. And then your post-race analysis, I think we've already gone through most of that as far as, what you would do differently. And we've already capped off that there are definitely some things that we would change and make it adaptations to. Is there anything else you can think of that would be advice for someone that's thinking about going to Berlin? What one piece of advice would you have for them to expect when going to Berlin?
It's a lovely city. So, but I would say if you're someone who lives in a country that's a fair way away and there's a lot of travel, then I would actually take a few extra days. I think a lot of people suffer when they just arrive on the Thursday and then the race is on Sunday. So if you're traveling over 15 hours flying time, then I would go definitely a few days earlier. There are lots of nice things that you can do that don't require a lot of energy. And the Tiergarten is a lovely place just to do, short runs, shakeout runs and a few little intervals and things like that if you want to. In fact, I was very thrilled to come across the Kenyan elites a couple of times when I was out running. On the Thursday, I was doing some intervals and Rosemary Warringer, Sebastian Sowe, and the group of Kenyans ran past me. And I got a lovely photo of him. Someone called out Sebastian, and he turned around. I got a nice photo of him.
Very
And the
good.
other nice thing was on the general run, the 5K general run, the day before, they were all there at the end having photograph taken, and I was trying to take a selfie, and they invited me to come over and have a photo taken. So I've got some lovely
Wonderful.
photos with
That's
Sebastian.
wonderful.
And then I saw him again at Doha Airport on the way home, which was lovely. But he actually he didn't do the time that he wanted to do. He was
Right.
one of the few that did reasonably well. I mean, 2:02, that was great.
Yes. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
Rosemary actually, she was 11 minutes off her normal time, and she was taken apparently to the medical tent afterwards with a bit of
Oof.
heat exhaustion. So that,
Oof. Then
when you see the elites suffering like that too, then then
you know it's bad. Yeah, that makes
yeah.
sense. So speaking of that, and giving yourself plenty of time, are there any sites that you would recommend people be sure and take in when they're in Berlin, either before or after the race?
Well, I know some people who did do the cycling tour before, and I think it's quite a, and I did that in 2019. It was great. And it's not overexertive or anything like that. You're stopping frequently at all the different sites. You're getting a good look at the eastern side of Berlin as well as the western side, and they take you to all the major landmarks. So I definitely would do a cycling tour. Maybe not the day or two beforehand, but if you're there for a week
Right.
or so beforehand, then early. Otherwise, leave it till after. A cruise on the River Shee is quite pleasant, but all the big landmarks, and then of course you've got the memorial to the Jewish community, the museum. That can be. I probably wouldn't go beforehand to see that. It can be quite confronting, and so, but it's worth seeing and appreciating what actually happened, and how sorry the Germans are for what happened, because there's lots of memorials, sorry, around the place to mark that tragic time in history. Yeah, so there's also park runs. If anyone's there for a little bit longer, there's one park run in particular that's easy to walk to from the city. But yeah, it's just a very, very pretty city. It's lovely along the river. It's good to see the old sections and the new sections. There's certainly difference in architecture. So if you're interested in architecture, then it's worthwhile having a look at that. There's hop off and on buff. You can take advantage of that and visit various sites. Checkpoint Charlie's a big site that everyone always likes to go to see. But yeah, there's lots of tourist things to do. The zoo is lovely, and the aquarium, and that's within the Tiergarten. In fact, I think Tiergarten means zoo garden in German. And where I stayed in the beginning, I overlooked the zoo, which was really lovely, and yeah, very, very pleasant. Yeah, I love the Tiergarten. It's really nice just to
That sounds
roam around
wonderful. There's
there.
plenty to do. So there's plenty to do and plenty of time to say. Would you, getting there earlier, did you leave the day after the race? Is that when you ended up leaving?
No, I tend to. So now that I'm doing my second time round, the last time I actually went to Munich and went to Oktoberfest, but I now have another business that requires me to be home a little bit sooner. And also because I've been to all the cities before and did a lot more sightseeing, then I don't feel like I need to this time around. So I like to have the day after a rest, not to be, flying straight off back to Australia. So it's then the following day. So I went on the Wednesday, flew back to Australia on the Wednesday, and I'll do the same in New York. So I'll be there a week before, but go home a bit earlier. Yeah, but if you haven't been there before, then it's a great opportunity to do some other travelling and see what else the city has to offer, or the other parts of the country, not just necessarily the city that the major was in.
It's a very good point. But, if you're going to make that travel, you're going to make that distance,
exactly.
It's good to do the things that you can while you're there. So very smart. Jennifer, this has been a wonderful conversation. I absolutely appreciate you taking the time out of your day to chat with me and to give me your insights on Berlin, to get others the inside scoop on how the race went and how things panned out, and great lessons, just wonderful lessons that I think we all can take away and understand and better ourselves from, especially going forward in this, not only just for going to Berlin, but any type of race that we want to enter into. So I thank you so much for your time and for your stories, and look forward to seeing you. Best of luck in New York City. Can't wait to see how you do there. Where can people find you on social channels? Anywhere specifically you want to send people to?
So I'm just Jennifer Kellett on Facebook and an Instagram site. But I do also have a running one that I call Running from Old Age. And so I tend to put more running things up there. But I'm not a prolific social media person, but there are things up there. And I'm trying to be a little bit more proactive with the Running from Old Age. But I'm not.
And can people find you on Strava as well?
Oh, yes, I'm on Strava. Yes, definitely on Strava. Just Jennifer Kellett on Strava from Australia. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Well, again, I greatly appreciate you taking the time to share your story with us. And folks, we look forward to seeing you on the next episode of Major Reflections. Thank you now. I hope you enjoyed this program with Jennifer, and I hope you learned a lot from her experiences in Berlin. What did you learn? Let me know in the comments below and share what you think might be a good takeaway for you. Are you looking to run a major soon? Are you looking to run Berlin? Let me know in the comments below which major you're looking forward to and what year you're going to run it in. If you're looking to become a stronger, healthier, happier runner, then check out the Personal Best program. There you will find a program with like-minded runners looking to become the better version of themselves, no matter what the circumstances. Again, that's pbprogram.com. Again, I hope you enjoyed this episode of Major Reflections. I look forward to seeing you on the next episode soon. Have a great run, everyone.